Caruso runs a break. Caldwell Pope goes to the wing here. James! Oh!
Trying to play at the defensive end, got blown by back.
Oh, yes!
Hook jam!
Harden, step back, puts up the three, got hit, shot's good, and one!
This time here, set.
Oh, Russell Westbrook!
So the series as itself, this was it started off as like it looked like it was gonna be a blowout, like just a sweep. God, I forbid it was gonna happen, especially in game one when Adebayo went down, Dragic went down, Butler had ankle injury, but he continued to play and actually was the driving force behind the Heat to even push him to win 2 games and keep them in this series as long as they did. And he's played phenomenal in these playoffs. Shout out to Jimmy Butler, too. He went from averaging, I saw a stat they pulled up, it went from averaging 19.9 points in the regular season to 22.5, about 22 points in the postseason to averaging like 27 in the finals itself. And each segment, his field goal percentage increased as well as his rebounds and assists. He even put up like a 40-point triple-double in game 3, which was a big game from him. And as we saw as the series went on, he played a lot of minutes, especially in the last 2 games. Game 5, they was able to pull out a win after the blunder that the Lakers, put on with, I ain't even going, we'll get into that. But, the series started off looking like it was going to be a blowout. But game 3, Jimmy Butler came in, motivated and put on a show and was very relentless and outdid LeBron. And what many said, he outdid LeBron at doing LeBron, really, because like I mentioned before, we used to see LeBron James put on these kind of Herculean performances where he's putting on these massive number triple doubles, which he has a couple times in these playoffs because he's averaged 30 points into these finals, close to a 29.5, and he had a triple double in a couple games as well. In that game, though, specifically, Jimmy Butler just outdid him. In the first quarter, LeBron James was talking smack to Jimmy Butler, saying, "Y'all in trouble." It was funny the way he said it, too. If you watch the video, I don't know. Anyways, it was funny. He said that Jimmy Butler came back and, it was very relentless. Kelly had a good game that game, too, because after Adebayo went out, Spoelstra was playing with the lineups and certain Myles Leonard and Kelly Olynyk, which kind of benefited the Heat in some ways because where Adebayo doesn't shoot as many threes, or I ain't gonna say he ain't a capable shooter because he can shoot the mid range, but he don't shoot as many threes. Myles Leonard and Kelly being those bigger bodies and being able to shoot the being able to shoot the 3, it created more spacing. Kelly, I believe, had 24 points in game 3. And it kind of opened up the floor. Tyler Hero played very good in that game as well, too. That's when he had that little snarl face that you've been seeing circling around the internet. But then after that, game 4, Lakers came back, pushing the series up to being 3-1. And then game 5, very close game, back and forth. It was a great playoff game, actually. Very good game back and forth. And like I said, that blunder in the last couple seconds with LeBron James, wasn't even a bad pass. He could have took the shot, but he had a lot of people on him because he wanted anybody else but LeBron taking that shot, And the way he was playing that game, too, he put on a phenomenal performance that game, a phenomenal performance. I actually thought they was going to close it out. They had the Mamba jerseys. That was also a problem I had with that game, too, because, going into that game, you seem like a lot of stuff circling in there. I'm not going to really – you can put some blame on the Lakers themselves because they never lost in those Black Mamba uniforms. And for them to don that jersey for that game gave the impression that they was going to close it out. As every team should. You should go into it thinking you're going to win. But I feel like they kind of underestimated the Heat and what they brought in that game, too. I think that game was Bam's first game back. If it was not that game, it was probably game 4. Dragic going to come back in game 6. They kind of underestimated them in that game because the Heat eventually won. As LeBron, kicked it out to Danny Green, and Danny Green missed that wide open 3, which, you can get mad at him if you want. He missed a wide open 3, but really, I don't see a lot of people talking about is Markieff Morris and what he did once he got the rebound. He just kind of I don't know who he was throwing it to. I don't know if he saw the ghost of Kobe Bryant coming from the baseline or something. He tried to throw a lob or something. I don't know what he was trying to do. He just literally just threw the ball up like, I don't know. I guess he was trying to throw it to the post AD, but LeBron James opening a three. So I didn't see him getting as much flack like Danny Green did. He got some depth there. That's pretty tragic. People actually do that, but that's the Lakers fan base for you. You know, they are like the NBA version of the Cowboys, even though I am a Cowboy fan, or like the NBA version of UK fans, even though I do go to UK. I'm not like those people. You know, I may be fans of these people or attend school or that school. I'm not like those people. But anyways, so that happened, and you know, Game 6 came, and you know, like I said, you just seen the wear and tear on Jimmy Butler. You know, I'm spending most of this time kind of talking about the Heat, but I'm gonna transition and talk about the Lakers too. You see in that game, Jimmy Butler was exhausted because he played. I think in Game 5, he only was out for like 2 minutes of that game. You know, salute to Jimmy Butler, who's been playing phenomenal and has been a big catalyst for this Miami Heat to make it to the NBA Finals. You know, people, including me, you know, questioned why is he going to Miami for? Is it somebody's gonna come with him? Because there was like rumors that he was getting offers. The Los Angeles, both Clippers and Lakers, want him to come. But I was like, why Miami? You know, they got some good young players and Bam Adebayo. They eventually ended up drafting Tyler Hero. Goran Dragic was still there, and they drafted Kendrick Nunn. All these major pieces that ended up being there. And they traded for Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder. Like, I was like, why there? And he proved people like me and other people wrong. That like, this team is very, you know, capable of making it far. And in their first year together, and with with his leadership and the mentality that the team had together, you know, they get the NBA championship, which makes them look, you know, a bit appetizing for a free agent that wants to head there. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Looks very appetizing for a major star, whoever wants to head there, you know, in 2021 free agency season. You know, I don't think it's really too many big free agents this upcoming free agency season besides Anthony Davis, who, you know, he could possibly re-sign with the Lakers, or he could sign somewhere else. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. But, you know, I think that he played very well. You know, shout out to them guys. Duncan Robinson had a great game in Game 5, too, where he put up 26 points. You know, he was on fire from 3 that game. Like, golly. Kyle Kuzma couldn't catch a break with all them fouls he was having, especially that one foul on that 3, and Duncan Robinson nailed it. He did flop on that corner 3, you know, against KCP. That was a little bit of a flop right there, but it just goes to show you that, you know, he's catching on. You know, he understands the game, because some people will get away with that stuff. But that one, you got to be a little better about that. But he played very well. And it's just, like I said, it just goes to show Jimmy Butler's leadership. Kendrick Nunn, who was a guy I said that the Heat are missing, considering that he hasn't played well since he came back from his COVID positive result, and he was playing with the team. He wasn't really playing as much either compared to what he was playing in the regular season when he started. And then, you know, once Goran Dragic went out, he kind of got more minutes, and he actually lifted them in some games, like in that Game 5 when he had like 14, 15 points that game as well. Shooting some nice threes, and, you know, was able to create space and get some shots up on his own. Remember that one shot he hit against KCP at the top of the key? It was nothing but swish, nothing but net, man. So the Heat, like, and shout out to like Tyler Hero too, you know, UK alum. Shout out to him, the way he played in his rookie season, to be like the youngest rookie to play in. Was he like he was like one of the youngest players to start in the NBA Finals? You know, shout out to him. To the way he played in this Miami Heat team as a whole, and Eric Spoelstra, the coaching staff, for them to like make it this far and to beat what people thought was going to be the Eastern Conference Finals champions in the Milwaukee Bucks, run through the East the way they did, and taking the Lakers to 6 games. You know, when you know you look at their teams compared to the Lakers, they're kind of undersized. They're a little bit smaller compared to the Lakers. The Lakers being a little bit bigger, but they was able to hold on with them. And the Lakers, we're going to transition to the Lakers, found ways to hold this team down. You know, the Miami Heat, their bread and butter is they're good defensively, especially perimeter defensive-wise. And, you know, they're very good on offense from the perimeter. And in Game 6, we saw that, you know, the Lakers shut that down. I think it's where the Lakers' strong suit was throughout this series and then through the playoffs altogether, because throughout the season, we talked about the Lakers not being as strong of a perimeter defensive team. And you think they would be with all the people that they had with Avery Bradley, even though he wasn't in the bubble, Danny Green, Rondo, LeBron James, all these guys who come off as like these perimeter defenders, and AD too, who we saw guard Jimmy Butler very well in the late half of the series and kind of neutralize him a little bit, especially in that game 6. And we seen that they became a better defensive team. That's kind of the reason why they dominated through the playoffs. It wasn't because of their high-packed offense between LeBron James and AD, that was a big help, but the defense that they played against these teams was really the key reason why they were able to win this NBA championship. And salute to them, as a testament to who LeBron James is as a player, as a leader, for him to take this team. Because really, when you really look at this team, they have good players on there, like a LeBron James and AD, of course, but a lot of redemption and a lot of players who was kind of looked like kind of shunned away from the league. Rondo, Dwight Howard, KCP, even though he's been on the Lakers, JaVale McGee, these kinds of players who J.R. Smith, Deion Waiters, these kinds of players who, who've been tossed around the league. The league ain't really giving them no shots, and the Lakers really made something out of nothing. And of course, with the addition of a Caruso, who the Lakers started in Game 6, which I thought at first wasn't gonna really be too much of a difference, but they got off to a hot start that game. They replaced Dwight Howard with Caruso on the line, I guess, putting AD at the 5, and they played phenomenal that game. With all that talent, and I always preach that. I was telling people this, that I believe that he can still win if LeBron James is still hot, but as long as those role players ain't hitting and AD's not good, that he can still win. Any team can beat them. But when LeBron gets going and he's getting these role players involved, as we saw, KCP showed up big time in these playoffs. All the Lakers fans that used to talk smack about KCP, myself included, because in the beginning of the season, they were like, why is this guy still on the team? He's only on the team because he signed to Clutch Sports, and he probably got some deal with LeBron and Rich Paul to keep him on the team. But he showed his worth through these playoffs. Danny Green, even though people got on him for that game in Game 5 about them missing that shot, Game 6, he showed up, had a crucial 11 points and some major threes for them. Dwight Howard, who had some good points throughout this series as well, and throughout the season in general. Anthony Davis, of course, he showed up. Caruso, Rondo really showed up in that Game 6, having 19 points off the bench, going, I think, 8 for 11 in that Game 2. He was playing phenomenal. Only had 4 assists, 4 rebounds, though. But he was playing phenomenal. He's a big lift for them in these playoffs, and his mind, along with LeBron, I see some interviews of him talking. He said, watching, LeBron in, the 2016 playoffs and, the playoffs before he became an actual Laker, he was, saying that if he can get on the team with LeBron, that there's going to be no team that can beat them in a 7-game series because of their basketball minds together. And, them two are, the two main people that be talking in the film. And you see in the way they translate in their games, because they both very smart basketball players that can understand the game from on the offensive end, defensive end, and not only just their teams, but other teams as well, And we saw that on display, how when Rondo would take over, kind of get the team going and keep, energy flowing, kind of take LeBron off of that playmaking duty and doing that himself and getting other guys involved, especially with that second unit. Now, Kyle Kuzma, he hasn't been playing. I haven't seen too much of Kyle Kuzma in this, in this playoffs or just in general in the regular season. Kind of make the Lakers look a little silly for keeping him over Brandon Ingram, because you have Brandon Ingram with these guys, godly. That's the big 3 right there. But who's to say Brandon Ingram probably wouldn't play the same, because in New Orleans, especially with Zion being now, he had more opportunity, became the number 1 guy, so he had that more touches. But who's to say he probably would have. But if you go off history of how LeBron's big 3s usually go, you going to have LeBron doing LeBron things. You'll have that second guy who was going to be AD instead of Brandon Ingram to be that guy he was going to go to, and they kind of do that duo thing. They're going to have that third guy who has been in the past, like a Chris Bosh or Kevin Love, who will be like like that third guy to be there to like do the work and like kind of provide what Chris Bosh does defensively and like, you know, create, like not creating shots, but like shooting perimeter shots, and Kevin Love rebounding, you know, outlet passing, and becoming a better perimeter shooter. I don't know how they would play with this team, because if AD was gonna be the second guy, especially as a big man, and you know he's proven to be probably LeBron's best teammate, especially the way they play with each other and they pick and roll and just the chemistry they have with each other. I don't know how they would have played out, but it'd been interesting to see. But that's neither here or there. LeBron James, you know, like I said, a testament for who he is as a leader, as a player. You know, we all laughed at them. I saw a video of like just the 2018-2019 Lakers season. Man, it's crazy to think that, you know, the shenanigans and the mean team that was Lakers of last year. This literally last year. You know, these guys didn't make the playoffs, and now the year later they make the playoffs and they win the NBA championship. It's just crazy to just see how that happens. You know, who said what it was done last year? LeBron James didn't go out for those 27 games with that groin injury either. Who said like what could they have accomplished then? But man, they did it for this guy. You know, they did it. Now, people, like they said that once Kobe died, you know, the Lakers definitely gonna win it. You know, and you know who you can say that was definitely some extra fuel for that fire for doing that. And as you saw in the post game ceremony as well, LeBron was talking about how everybody played because they want their respect, and that's true. Like I said, going back to what I said earlier, like with these redemption arcs that you have with some of these players, like Dwight Howard. Would you have Rob Pelinka, who many was talking like he wasn't a good executive, myself included. You know, especially when you have Magic leaving and like talking, like saying some things about Rob, even though they're still good friends, but like saying some things that a lot of people took it in a negative way about Rob Pelinka. You have LeBron James, you know, who wanted his respect because, you know, all this GOAT talk. We'll get into that too. And you had Frank Vogel, who wasn't a coach for like a year or two after formerly coaching the Magic. And, you know, he wanted his respect. And, like, the assistants, you know, Jason Kidd, who's been tossed around, not really, but from Brooklyn to Milwaukee and wasn't a coach, but getting his assistant coaching job. Lionel Hollins, like, all these guys that just kind of want their respect. Rondo, just all these guys. And they really played hard, and they got this championship. And they did it through grit, defense, determination, you know, focus. LeBron kept them on track. Even though they was one of the teams that didn't want to resume the season, once especially during that pause in the middle of the playoffs when the Jacob Blake shooting took place, you know, they stayed focused and they had their eyes on the prize, which was the NBA championship, and they eventually captured it. So salute to them.